Welcome to Let's Know History. Today we are going to know about one of the most beautiful Shiva temple constructed 1200 years ago. When I visited this temple for the first time, I was really spellbound and had no words to express the joy of seeing this temple. Famously known as Brihadeeswara Temple, we should be surprised why this is not in the seven wonders of the world. First, let's appreciate the efforts of this great king, Rajaraja Chola, and the people who worked to build this masterpiece. I recommend everyone at least visit this temple once in your lifetime. The greatest of Chola emperors, Rajaraja I, the son of Sundara Chola and Vanavan Mahadevi, built this magnificent temple named Brihadeeswarar at Thanjavur, the capital of Chola dynasty. This temple is known by many names like Rajarajeshwaran Temple, Perudayar Temple, Brihadeeswarar Temple, and of course the big temple. Now, let's go into this temple and see in detail. In the olden days, temples were not just a place for worship. Along with worshipping the gods, it was a center of learning, interaction, studies, and a great place for sharing the knowledge. One can see a beautiful Nandi Mantapam as soon as you enter the temple from Rajaraja Gopuram. This Mandapam, facing the central shrine, is a huge monolithic Nandi added in the Nayakar time. The magnificent view of Sri Vimana appears as one enters the huge open courtyard from the Rajaraja Gopuram. The Sri Vimanam is pyramidal in its structure. It is hard to believe that the foundation for this magnum opus is only 7 feet deep. It is constructed in such a way that the weight of Vimanam is evenly distributed on itself. This temple is part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site, the Great Living Chola Temples. The temple became popular all over the country on its 1000th birthday in September 2010. In its commemoration, a rupee postage stamp featuring the 216 feet tall Rajagopuram was released by the India Post. The temple stands amidst fortified walls that were probably added in the 16th century. The Vimanam temple tower is 66 meter high and is the tallest in the world. The Kumbam, the apex on the top of the temple, is carved out of a single rock weighing around 80 tons. At the top, the pyramid is reduced into a neck and holds the Vimanam or Shikara, which is a monolithic huge rock, spherical in shape. Its approximate weight is 81.28 tons. Above the Vimana, there is a shining kalasam made up of gold whose height is 12 feet, and it is believed that it was originally presented by Rajaraja I himself. At the top of the pyramid, above the 13th stage, 8 Nandis are seen on corners. This temple has a very unique base for this much huge Vimanam. When archaeologists tried to find out what is underneath this great temple, it was very surprising for them to find after some feet of rocks, they were getting only sands till thousands of feet depth. This was purposely done to prevent this temple crumbling from earthquakes, and this temple has at least seen more earthquakes in 1200 years, but it still remains as straight as it is when those years. You must really appreciate the technology which went into building this temple. There are so many stories inscribed in this wall, and now we will see some of the stories along with seeing the temple. When Rajaraja Cholan wanted to build a temple for Lord Shiva, he asked his priest about the place to build, and the priest said, the god himself will show the place. After some days, when Rajaraja Cholan went for hunting, he came across a wild boar. When he chased it, it went into a place and stood there and scratched the ground 3 times. This astonished the king, and he consulted his priest again, and they explained that the god has said the temple should be built in this place. So he named a small temple as Varahi Sannadhi in this temple itself, and still now the first puja will be done for this Varahi Sannadhi whenever there is a big occasion. Now let's hear another story. There is a name of a person inscribed at the topmost part of the temple Gopuram, and the name is Alagi. One may think it may be name of one of his queens, but the story goes like this. There was a grandma who used to sell buttermilk, and she used to daily give free buttermilk to the sculptors and the workers who were working on building this great temple. And one day, when king came to know this, to recognize the gesture of this grandma, he made sure that this story is written in temple wall forever, and her name stands at the top of the temple gopuram forever too. This shows how important this temple was for everyone, and the king too was people friendly at that time. Rajaraja Cholan has given credits for all the people who worked, who helped, who designed in building this temple, and it is all inscribed in the walls of the temple. The king was very much supervising everything in this temple by himself, which is very evident when we see one of the first inscription in the temple wall quotes this: To Rajarajeshwara, raised by us in Thanjavur, gifts by ourselves, by our elder sister, by our queens, and by others. The richest gifts to this temple were made by the king himself and his elder sister Kundavai and his queens. In the northwestern corner in the temple, there is a shrine dedicated to Subramanya, a contribution of the Nayaka kings. It's an exuberantly ornate shrine with intricate and minute carvings. The shrine carries an unusual but apt six sided shikara, a multi pillared hall in front of this temple has the portrait paintings of the Maratha kings, which you can see now also, and those are really beautiful. Don't miss this shrine when you visit this temple. The great Chola king put almost all his riches, and the booty from the war was also given to the temples. Utensils required for the temple services, ornaments for the idols in the temple, villages for supplying the temple with required paddy, amount of money required for purchasing articles for the temples, including camphor, cardamom seeds, champaka flowers, and the roots required for scenting the water for God's bath. Musicians, accountants for writing temple accounts, treasurers, goldsmiths, carpenters, astrologers were all provided by the king himself for all the temples he built. No other civilization in this world had the architectural knowledge of building temples with such a huge scale and the technical understanding of the nature so that the structure stands still forever. It doesn't matter how many YouTube videos and the stories you hear about this great temple. If you see this temple by your eyes in live, you will for sure will be speechless for a moment, at least by seeing the grandeur of this place. My sincere request to our modern sculptors who visit temple to not write their loved ones' names in any temple walls. Please do visit our temple and always keep our temple premises clean and neat. Thank you for your time in watching this video.